Good evening, the village board. Meeting this evening will now come to order. I'm filling in for President Roderick, who is ill this evening. All other trustees are present and has this meeting been publicly noticed. The meeting has been publicly noticed according to law. Thank you. Seeing that, we will move on to item number 4, special order of business. And we have a presentation from the Milwaukee County Transit System. Thank you very much for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. Village Board. My name is Tom Winter. I'll try to talk both ways. I'm the director for the Schedule and Planning Department for Milwaukee County Transit. And I'm just going to give you a real kind of quick presentation on a new project that we're beginning called MCTS Next. I'm not sure if you can sort of see their department behind you, but this is especially focused on the village of Shorewood, so we'll take it from there. So, maybe not. There we go. So MCTS Next is what we're calling it. Basically, it's our effort to create more high-frequency bus service. But you would basically categorize most of the routes that we run today as low frequency. And we define that as being buses that come less often than 15 minutes. If you're high frequency, it's less than 15 minutes. Low frequency is worse than 15 minutes. So your buses that come every 20 minutes, half hour, maybe hourly. And we want to do that to create, just shorten your travel times from when you get on the bus to where you get to your destination. And really it's looking at the entire route network, not just a route, not just this or two route, the whole county network. We're doing it because for a variety of reasons. We want to be cost effective. We obviously receive taxpayer dollars to fund the system. We need to be efficient with that. We know from experience that high frequency bus routes, your Route 30s and your green lines, and the local example along Oakland, these are your best routes in terms of cost effectiveness. We want to serve our riders obviously better. And we want to integrate ourselves better into the new transportation options like the streetcar, like bus rapid transit that's coming down in a couple of years. So how do we do this? So we basically look at shifting service that is really kind of low ridership, buses that don't come very often, they carry less riders, and relocating some of that service into other routes to create high frequency routes. We also want to look at the speed of the service by looking at bus stops that are not really used that often and removing them so that the bus isn't stopping every 2 blocks every so often. We also want to have a good mix of where the route travels so you get all those different kinds of travel trips being made. And we're doing this all within the existing budget. So we're not looking to ask for more money to do so, which would certainly slow things down from a budgetary standpoint. Part of this big process, it's a long process, I'll get to the project schedule at the end, but we want to talk to and we want to listen to people. We're not just talking, we want to listen. We've already informed all local, county, city stakeholders. We've met with Independence First, we've met with Marquette, UWM, a lot of stakeholders. We plan to meet with some Central City folks like MICA and Black Health Coalition. The plans are already online. If you go to our website, mcts.com, you'll see the plans in great detail. We actually are having 3 public meetings right now. There was one last week, one tomorrow at Serb Hall, and next one is on Brady Street on Thursday. And then we're completely open to having additional meetings. So real quickly today, so we define what we have our network as a 40-60 system. So 40% of the drivers or of the bus hours that we put into the system are only on high frequency routes. And that of course means 60% are less or rather low frequency. So these are the buses that were 20 minutes, 30 minutes an hour. Back in the 90s when times were better financially, we were actually at a 70% high frequency. So because of a variety of reasons for funding, we are at 40% high frequency.
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Just to drill down a little bit on the definitions. When we're defining low frequency, high frequency, we say every 15 minutes.
Yep.
Does that just count the weekday schedules? Because obviously the schedule is different weekday to weekend.
Right. So, well, actually, one of the benefits, and I'll note, is that today on the weekends, the average frequency might be 30 minutes to 60 minutes. So that's another sort of value of this project, that we can make more high-frequency service on Saturdays, not so much on Sundays, but certainly better than what we have on Sundays today. So option one, we have two options. One is just flipping that ratio from 40-60 to 60-40, create 60% high frequency and 40% low, and we're introducing something called daytime service. So under this option, there would be 6 new high-frequency routes, 15 local routes, and then there would be 8 daytime routes that just run, as the name implies, 6 a.m. To 7 p.m., just daytime. What this does, the great benefit on the weekends, kind of what I just mentioned, today, whereas on Saturdays we only have 3 high-frequency routes on a Saturday, we would have 16 high-frequency routes. So you're really covering more of the county and not just a handful of routes. So here is a map of the proposed 60-40 high-frequency map. All those pink lines, those are the high frequency, so you can see they're covering in the southeast, northwest, southwest. Clearly in Shorewood you already have a lot of good service, but also going west as well on the north and south sides. The thin blue lines are the local routes. They're more like 20 minutes, could be 30 minutes. And then the green, the real thin lines, those are the daytime routes. Frequency would still be 30 minutes-ish, but again, just daytime is only 7 days a week. So the next option is something that's even more aggressive on high frequency. And just to step back a bit, that is the question. That is when we ask our riders, what do you want in the system? Really, it is more high frequency, more high frequency. So this is kind of where we're taking our first step. 80-20 is the other option. You get 10 more high frequency routes than you do today, so 20 total. 11 local routes, but in this case, to get that higher frequency number of routes, the daytime routes would exist. So you still have the same improvement on weekends as noted earlier under 60-40. So a little hard to tell, but there are about, as I mentioned, there are 4 more high-frequency lines under this option. So Lincoln Avenue, 35th Street, Silver Spring, and the last one always escapes me, Burline. So this is just kind of it's a little tricky to follow, but it's a little GIF that shows the current high-frequency network, and then as you go through the 60 and the 80. So today, under 60, under 80. So you can kind of see how it spans out as you go higher and higher. And these are just the high-frequency routes. The local service is not shown, but and that's one of the things that we want to note in more detail, I'll be honest, in that regard, because clearly as part of this process, some segments will not have service. So just some quick stats. By expanding the frequency network, we can drastically increase the number of people or the number of jobs that are available along these high frequency routes. So you go from 300,000 folks to over 500,000 under 60-40. You go from 225,000 jobs to almost 300,000. So you're really, as I say, expanding the network, getting people where they want to go faster in a shorter amount of time. So, proposed changes, and I do want to underline proposed. Everything that you're seeing is just a proposal. We are not at a final stage at this point. I'll get to more of that in detail, but for what the routes in Shorewood today, so we have the green line, no changes. It's currently green, it's currently high frequency, it stays high frequency. Same thing with the red line on Capitol Drive. Then one noticeable change, which I know is kind of on the minds of some people that we've gotten comments from, which is good, is the 14 that goes up Humboldt and then Capitol to Wilson, Santa Monica to Bayshore. That would be removed, so the bus would just be only turning around at Capitol Drive. And our reason for doing that is to try to create, partly make Route 14 a high-frequency route, because it's a pretty big route, serves downtown, Potawatomi, southwest side. But also some of the ridership along Wilson, Santa Monica is, relatively speaking, not as high as it is on other routes. If you look at like the green line, that also goes from Oakland up to Bay Shore, that has about 4 times the ridership than Route 14 does. So, you know, again, we're just at the proposal stage, nothing is written in stone. Route 14 will be there tomorrow, next week, next year. So that's a good segue to next steps. So we are in that public review feedback phase. By first quarter of next year, we'll prepare a recommended plan based upon input that we've gotten, based upon the budget and all those other good things. And then we'll present that plan back to the public one more time. Eventually, we do need to go to the county board of supervisors and get their approval. So this is a process that might not get officially approved, assuming everything goes right perfectly, which it always does, right? Not always. But that would be more of a springtime, maybe summer. Whatever is passed, hopefully it will be passed, we would have like probably a year-long implementation public campaign process, given the size of the changes. So we're looking more like summer of 2020, could be fall of 2020 before something is actually in place. So there's a lot more details on, as I say, ridemcts.com/next. The maps are there. There's FAQ pages, there's information on meetings. There's more information that we want to put on there that needs to get on there, but that's a good place to start for information. So that's all I have. I'll be happy to take some questions. Sure.
So it's kind of, I mean, what's an acceptable distance to walk? I mean, if we cut out Wilson,
Right.
those folks have, they want it 3/4 of a mile.
Right. No, it's yeah. There's no doubt. I was literally talking with a fellow who talked about living up at this is I think Whitefish Bay or whatever the neighbor is to the north, but we bought a condo at Hampton and Hendon Clay. Yeah, it's a long way to Marlboro to Green Line, and it's a long way for Washington, well, like a half a mile. That's certainly not what we consider to be a suitable walking distance. Our average stop spacing is 1/8 of a mile. We've been looking more to switch it more towards 1/4 of a mile, but with some targeted exceptions. You know, so we want to make sure that we serve senior centers, we want to serve residents and people with disabilities. We've done that sort of thing in other situations when we've maximized, or I should say the opposite, thin bus stops. So, from our perspective, yeah, half a mile is not an acceptable walking distance. In light of, like I said, we're already receiving comments regarding that change. That could be one that, maybe isn't there at the end of the day.
Trustee Warren?
It does, I would encourage you to keep that in mind, because if you look at this line, if you look at the Route 14 line down Wilson, the closest lines are either on Capitol or Oakland, and
Right.
that is, I agree with Trustee Mauer, quite a distance to walk.
Right.
On the other side, you have Estabrook Parks, there's really no public transport option there. You've all of a sudden created this big void, where there's no public transportation available for a large segment of people who would be using those lines. So, you say the target is an eighth, and now what we go forward. I would encourage you to look at, you're not hitting that target for
Sure.
so I encourage you to consider that.
Right, no, thank you, and we certainly will. I mean, if further we want a system that reflects public input, that's what we're doing. These kinds of meetings, I think we've already had about 20 meetings across the county thus far that we've more to come. But it is a balance, right? Because we sort of, we keep hearing, like I say, providers, that frequency is the issue, and keeping the budget ceiling what it is, you have to do some trimming, as it were. How do you do that is the challenge, of course. But sure.
I had a question about the slide where you had the increase in the number of ridership based on doing this. I mean, what did you base those numbers on?
Well, but the numbers that showed was like the increase in the accessibility of people that live along a high-frequency route. So what we're doing really is looking at a map, basically, and just that initial animation that showed today's high frequency is pretty compact. But when you stretch out those lines, you're just including that many more people that live along the newer network. So we certainly expect ridership to increase. More high frequency gives you more riders. We our best routes today are the most high frequent routes, like the 30s and the green lines and red lines and so on.
But isn't part of the ridership decline due to the economy improving and more people being able to afford their own cars? I mean, so just the fact that, I mean, that slide kind of implied that your ridership's gonna get that much bigger, but it really, it might not, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to predict the future for sure, right? I mean, nationwide, you know, we, like in Chicago and St. Louis and what have you, a lot of public transit systems are seeing less riders. Not so much the economy, but that's part of it. It's, you know, it's the gas, cheap gas that's been around forever. It's the long-term effects of not having good frequency. People just sort of, well, the cars are the way to go. It's Uber and it's Lyft and, you know, all these other sort of alternative options, biking as well. So it's really, like I say, it's kind of time to, what transit is, let's do what transit does best. Create large numbers of people, you know, in certain real definitive time frames. Right? That's where fixed transit does best.
One other question. I recently just completed the redesign of Wilson Drive.
Right.